Every week we do a Q&A with interesting and accomplished members of the adaptive community to find how they persevered, how they innovated, how they built communities, and how they found solutions. Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast. Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast, where we talk with interesting and accomplished members of the adaptive community. Today we have Rob Enigl. Rob is a 2022 Paralympian. He competed in Beijing. He has many first sit ski descents. We'll talk about that. Some of these 40 to 50 degrees. 40 to 50 degrees is like you're hitting your shoulder on the side. He's a mentor and a coach for the newly injured people coming out, learning to ski for the first time up in Montana. Started monoskiing 3 months after being a passenger in a car that had an accident, which left him paralyzed. Rob, thanks so much. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This is great. Now, I've got to ask you about 3 months. I thought I was pretty impressive. I started skiing 362 days after my accident. You started skiing 3 months. And you know, I did have a bit of the issue of seasons not quite aligning. But at the same time, 3 months, how stable were you? Because it takes bone 3 months to heal. So you were still relatively delicate.
Yeah. I definitely, I got paralyzed October 1st of, I believe, 2011. I think I've been paralyzed about 9 years. But I got lucky. I ended up meeting a guy right before my paralyzation. His name was David Poole. He goes by Madman Poole. And he came into the store I worked at. It was a Verizon. And I ended up helping him out. And during that time frame, I was talking to him. One of my friends who hunts and fish, she came up to Dave and was like, "Hey, have you been hunting and fishing, Dave?" And I'm like, "How do you hunt and fish in a wheelchair?" I had no clue. I was super ignorant at the time because, you know, I feel like a lot of able-bodied people have no idea what wheelchair people can do. And this guy started telling me all this cool stuff he can do. He does skiing, he does elk hunting, he fly fishes, rafts, kayaks, all sorts of stuff. And at the end of the conversation, I exchanged numbers with him, and I told him that if I was ever paralyzed, I'd rock it just like him. And then a week later, I was in a rollover where my buddy was driving. We were on our way bird hunting, and I give him a call from Bozeman Hospital, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go hunting?" And I'm like, "No, I just got paralyzed in a car crash. I got life flighted over to Bozeman. And he came in and he kind of gave me the whole crash course of the stuff that's going to suck, but the stuff that's going to be, you know, really cool going forward. And I really had got to skip a lot of the pity party, my life's going to suck, because I really realized that there's a bunch of really cool things that you can do just by being that guy so recently. So
the serendipity of meeting him, okay, that I understand, but saying, "Hey, I'll give you a call if I ever become paralyzed," and then you became paralyzed weeks later, a week later?
I told him I'd rock it just like him if I was ever in a wheelchair, because I thought he was awesome at what he did. And our plan was to actually go hunting, you know, really the day that I called him, but I was paralyzed that night before. So, you know, he thought I was just calling him to, you know, to go out hunting. And I was like, "Hey, no, actually I got in a car crash." And then he came to the hospital, and like I said, he gave me all that, like, that helpful information of the stuff that's going to be rough, but the stuff that's going to be awesome. So
what was his reaction when you told him that you were paralyzed? Did he think that you were lying to him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it blew his mind. I remember him being like, "No way." And he thought I was joking, I think, for a bit. But I mean, I was pretty high on a lot of drugs that they had me on at that point in time. But I do remember him, you know, his mind being blown. And then he kind of came in, and like I said, he gave me all that helpful information.
So you were able, which is interesting, right? Because this is somebody who's a kindred spirit in so many ways, who's doing a lot of the stuff that you do all the way along. So you guys connected as people, and then suddenly he's a bit of a mentor. How did the skiing come about? Were you a skier before your accident, before the rollover?
So before my paralyzation, I mean, I'm from the Midwest originally. I'm from Kaukauna, Wisconsin. And the Midwest is nothing but kind of ice hills that have terrain parks everywhere. And I was a snowboarder before. And then the skiing kind of happened almost immediately because I knew Dave skied. But you know, I tell people that I've never skied before. I've only been on a monoski or on a snowboard. But yeah, I feel like I got into skiing right away because I felt like it was the one thing that was, pretty similar. And then just, after you link a few turns on the bunny hill, you're like, oh, okay, this feels right. And I mean, just the feeling of sit ski, I haven't found anything that's close to it in the disabled world yet that makes me feel like I'm, back, before my injury.
Did you take some of those falls, the same kind of falls that you took when you were first learning how to snowboard, catching that outside edge and just the high side flat flyer?
Yeah, the heel side edge on a snowboard is the same thing as catching that high side when you know it's coming and feels like you're the head of a sledgehammer getting slammed into the ground on a sit ski. So, but yeah, I remember being bruised up pretty badly. I remember them telling me to let them pick me up, and I refused. And I realized why they wanted me to do that, because I was exhausted that first couple of days. But I think on day 2 we were in the bowl at Big Sky in the Black Diamonds, and it was super cool to be up there. I mean, I tumbled the whole way down, but Dave definitely has an interesting style of point it straight down the hill as fast as he can. And I've kind of adapted a lot of that early on. So now I'm finally learning how to turn, I guess, with racing.
How did the racing come about? Did you decide, because it sounds like he wasn't necessarily racing. Did you find that on your own?
No. So let's see here. I ended up doing a video with the big Couloir and some big mountain skiing and stuff with Big Sky. And then me and my wife went up to Alaska and for our 10-year anniversary trip during the summer, and we did kind of the cruise trip. And we got all the way out to Fairbanks, and one of the directors of Challenge Alaska was there, and I had an adaptive hat on. I think it was from Higher Grounds, and he noticed it, came up, talked to me. He has a paralyzed daughter, and she's into racing now, and he mentioned that they were doing some adaptive camp up there that winter, and it was like a helicopter ski camp / race camp thing. I mean, I was more interested in the free riding and the heli skiing, and I heard of Andrew Kirka and Robbie Drugin and stuff like that before, and we went up there, had a really good time. First time engaged was up there with those guys. I mean, I was horrible at it. Kirka's a wonderful training technique of you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, motivated me to keep trying to get better at it, because it was one of the few things that I wasn't able to pick up immediately in the sit skiing stuff. So it was basically after doing that heli ski camp, I got into racing because I wanted to kind of learn more about the actual science behind the turn, because being a snowboarder, I used to be, take that, that cheapo, Teton edge tuner, had no idea what I was doing. I'd scrape the crap out of my edge, not knowing what it was, threw it in my roof box, let it bounce around, was my knowledge of ski tuning. And I wanted to understand what, side cut was, and, tuning skis, and honestly, all that stuff's super nice, because now I'm able to, I can tell if my base pebbles are off. I can tell if my ski's detuned, and it's kind of cool, because before ski racing, I just thought the snow was weird. But yeah, so basically they all convinced me to get into ski racing, and then I did it for about 3 years. Kind of more of a showing up kind of thing. One of my buddies, Sam Mahoney, got me into NSCD down in Winter Park, and they were super helpful. They kind of helped me out early on. I did about 2 years of kind of living in my van. I have a Toyota, not Toyota. I have a Ford Transit van that I've converted over to kind of a ski mobile. And I did 2 years of training. I guess not training, but basically showing up to races a couple days before, and then going down the race courses. And then after that, the year before the games, they made the long list, and then I kind of committed really fully to ski racing and training down at NSCD for about 3 or 4 months down there. So
how were you able to do that, right? Because you had your accident, your twins were 3 years old.
Yep.
Business, breeding golden retrievers.
Yeah.
Family's been in the business for 40 years, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're juggling a lot. You're coming to us from your greenhouse. Yeah. You're a guy who's got a lot going on. How did you get the time to go and ski?
I think that's so I got into ski racing 3 years ago, and I've been paralyzed for about 9 years. So my kids were old enough when I got into racing where I could at least leave for a couple days, but a vast majority of my racing career, I guess, has been, having 30 things going on at home, butting all that stuff up, running out the door the last minute, making my way to Canada or Park City or Winter Park, getting there maybe a day before the races, getting on snow, and then racing, hoping for the best, and then flying back as soon as possible to get back to helping with all these projects I have going on. I've always been kind of my plate needs to be absolutely full, or overflowing to keep my brain entertained. I'm very ADD, and I have a lot of distractions and a lot of hobbies, but I think it's been working out pretty well. But yeah, my family breeds golden retrievers. So the year that I made the long list for the games, my wife retired from an insurance agency, and she took over the day-to-day operations of the dog kennel. I focused on the racing, I guess the training that year. That was my first year of like full training. And I would say I only trained for about a month and a half at Winter Park, just because obviously I have kids and all these other things going on. But it was nice to be able to like focus on training and understanding what I was doing. We went to Norway and Sweden that year, right before the games. Actually, the year of the games was my first year kind of fully training, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. I wish I could dedicate more time to the racing, but I definitely don't. I don't have all my eggs in that one basket. I like a lot of other things that I want to focus on. And the new property we purchased, actually for the commercial like service and therapy golden retriever kennel, ended up being an organic fig farm, strawberry farm, and it ended up having all these extra income streams. So now it's this next 6 months is kind of a panic, trying to figure out what we're doing with all of it, trying to figure out what we're going to grow in the greenhouse, and how to maintain the property and all that stuff. But the zoning, the HOA covenant issues that don't exist out here, and just the space it's so nice being close to Bozeman, but also being in the country.
It looks like an absolutely beautiful place that you just purchased. What constitutes the day-to-day in the golden retriever breeding? Like how many animals do you have? Are you breeding and training? And how does that work? Do you have your dogs who are the breeders, or are you bringing in dogs, or how does that all come together?
Yeah, so our kennel name is Harvest Time Kennels. We actually have 4 locations. It's a family-run business. My mom started it about 40 years ago. I have a satellite location of her kennel, and I'm kind of branching off and creating my own commercial, professional, like world-class kennel out here. But what we end up doing is, I have 5 sisters, and when I was a kid, me and all my sisters used to have, 1 or 2 dogs apiece. They grew up with us. We trained them. We did dog shows. I was in Chicago, Minneapolis, Green Bay, Madison, all those locations, doing dog shows as a kid. And then when we all turned about 18 and kind of moved out of the house, we switched over to a thing called the guardian dog program, or a foster dog program. So we don't actually have any personal dogs ourselves. We basically give out, super high end quality golden retrievers to families in the Bozeman area, basically Montana, but mainly in Bozeman. And those dogs get to live, normal, happy lives with those families. They get to then typically when they hit 2 years old, we do all their health clearances, hips, elbow, eye clearances, heart clearances, genetic testing, all that stuff. And then we do, those dogs at 2 years old, after they've passed all those, they'll be part of the program. Once a year, they'd come to our house to have a litter of puppies. And then of those puppies, about a third of our dogs will do service or therapy work. So we donate dogs to a bunch of organizations, primarily the Midwest. So Canine Comfort Dogs, Occupaws, Blind Leaders, Champs program. Actually, Canada, we have a contract with them. All their blind leader dogs that are golden retrievers come from one of our kennels, which is kind of cool. And then a lot of we do sell dogs, but a lot of those dogs also have, kids with autism, Down syndrome, cognitive issues. A lot of those families get our dogs just because they make great, companions for those dogs. But yeah, we've done it forever, and it's kind of cool that it's kind of expanded into being, a family-run business. I have 2 sisters, one in Minneapolis and one in up north Wisconsin, that have smaller kennels. But it's nice because everyone asks me like, oh, you do service and therapy golden retrievers because you're in a wheelchair, and it's like, actually no, I've met wheelchair people my entire life, a lot of blind people as well, and it was cool to kind of be actually thrown into Craig Hospital when I got paralyzed, and seeing all of these dogs playing tug of war with us, and just coming into our rooms and stuff. And it's like, before I got paralyzed, those dogs were kind of a story that was I was told, and I got to see some of it, but I never got to see it firsthand. So it is cool that we get to, I get to see a lot more firsthand experience with service and therapy dogs. So I enjoy very much what I do.
But you breed them and raise them, but not necessarily, you don't have your own service dog.
So I don't have a service dog. Honestly, I don't think that I am as disabled as a lot of other people just because I'm a lower injury. I'm incomplete. I mean, I look at service dogs, when you start getting to a higher level paralyzation, they become more of a benefit. I don't really need a service dog personally. I don't think the therapy dogs, I mean, honestly, I have so much going on in general that I don't think I'd even have time for my own personal dog just because it requires a lot of training. And a lot of people don't know that a full-blown service dog usually ends up costing about $40,000 in training. And a lot of them actually flunk out of those programs where they have to pass all these different tests. And I actually prefer my golden retrievers to love everybody and want to be everyone's best friends. And most of the dogs that do service work for us, they are more of, focused in, dialed in. They don't want to be pet by everybody. So I personally like the dogs that, are everyone's best friend. And those are the ones that I like at my house typically.
So the ones that are working versus the ones that want to be everybody's best friend, or you're actually there just to love them, really is your job.
Yeah, definitely.
How did the relationship come with Big Sky? I mean, you're a Montana guy and you've skied a bunch of first descents, like Big Couloir, which is 40 to 50 degrees, and 40 to 50 degrees is kind of like, like if you're standing, your shoulder can touch the snow right above you as you're making your turn. Whereas you are in a monoski, you're a whole heck of a lot shorter. Like I was amazed one time when I saw a picture of me and I had no idea that I was making a turn and my lower arm was basically on the ground. I had no idea that my arm was parallel to the ground and basically on the ground, like on every turn. And when you're on that kind of angulation, what's that like? Because you can't get too angulated, but you want to be angulated enough that you can actually make the turn and stay in control. So on that kind of steep pitch, what's that like?
Yeah. So when I did the Big Couloir, so the Big Couloir is what I think 1,600 feet or 1,700 feet of like 50 to 55 degrees. So it's extremely long and steep as well. It's, when I did it, it was pretty deep snow in there, which is nice. So I kind of call it fall turning. It's more like jump turning. So, when I'm turning on steep stuff, I literally am falling over and I sink my left outrigger into the ground, and I'll actually end up like twisting my body to almost fall turn. So you're actually not really going left or right. You're actually falling, sinking your outrigger, and then almost doing like a pull up with your arm in the snow, kind of half upside down while your ski follows around. A lot of that really deep, steep snow, it seems to catch your ski a lot of times. So you do have to ski in that right condition. The big is really cool, but like the really selling point to where I ski is the tram is kind of the is why I love Big Sky. It's rest in peace. It actually just retired this year. They're building a new one. But I feel like it's one of the few places you can go ski in the US as a sit skier and be able to look at something, point at it, and say, I want to ski that without having to hike for 2 days to get to it. Aspen Highlands, Breckenridge, all the really cool resorts that have really cool terrain that looks fun and scary at the same time. You can't really get to easily without a lot of work. Where, the Gullies is pretty similar pitch of the Big Couloir. So are like Marks and Lennons and Dictators, but you can literally just ski to them in a sit ski. And I haven't been anywhere else that's been like that. But the connection I made with Big Sky was I got asked after doing the Big Couloir video. I made some friends with some of the FPV drone guys and some of the media team people, and they wanted to do some filming with the adaptive program called Eagle Mount at Big Sky. And then I linked up with those guys. And then the following, at the very end of the spring, that was the last year of the pond skim at Big Sky. And I ended up doing the pond skim. I feel like more people know me from the shirtless pond skimming that I did than anything else. But that was kind of the beginning of my partnership with Big Sky. I've really enjoyed it. It's cool to be kind of a promoter of a big mountain that is, has some really unique monoski, ability, I guess, that you can get to places that you just can't get to other places.
You skimmed over, no pun intended. I guess I did pun, but the pond skimming. You so this is, I mean, you sort of became famous quickly for this pond skimming. It seemed like it took on a life of its own, went viral. How did you make the decision to essentially, I mean, it looked like you were wearing a bathing suit, surf trunks, whatever it was, and that was pretty much it. How did that happen? And then as a follow-up to that, what did your wife think of your decision to go pond skimming?
Yeah, so the pond skim was kind of an impulse thing. The year before, I saw people doing it. I'm like, that'd be really fun, but I didn't end up signing up. So the following year, I'm like, I'm for sure doing it. I signed up in the morning. But spring skiing is probably my favorite time of the year. You can go off terrain park jumps. They're all pretty forgiving. You can go up the biggest booters that they have. And when you land, it doesn't feel like you're breaking your back again. I was skiing the whole day shirtless, with a bunch of my friends. And then we got up to the top of the hill. I'll take a lot of credit to all the college kids that were up there that had backpacks full of beer saying, "Do you want a pound of beer with me?" And I'm like, yes, let's do this. So I definitely drank quite a few beers up top. And then it was actually funny, a lightning was actually starting to happen across the canyon. So they were going to shut the pond skim down, and I got bumped forward a few people, and they just let me go. And I hauled ass down the hill, and it worked out really well. I was definitely worried about that knuckle. I've seen so many people who go too fast on a pond skim and hit that exit knuckle, and they get launched into the stratosphere. So I was a little worried about that, but I kind of figured that the sit ski was going to sink a lot faster, so I figured you had to go fast enough. One of my buddies from Steep Motion Works, Satchel, did the pond skim on the one right to me, the shorter pond, and he filmed it with a GoPro right through the video. So it was a really cool angle, a really cool shot that he got done. And then decided to throw my outrigger twirl on it at the end, and it went as good as it could possibly go, I think.
So I mean, we've got to describe a little bit of what exactly the pond skimming is, right? I mean, you're going across the water. How long a distance is this? So you're going, use the knuckle like a little jump to get into basically like a pool kind of thing, but it's a pool of cold, little bit more than frozen water, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the Big Sky pond skim actually was built really good for a sit skier. I mean, there was two ponds. There was like a shorter one that's maybe, I'm horrible at distances, maybe 100 feet, the long one was, and then maybe the shorter one was like 50 to 75 feet. And we, a lot of ponds that I've seen are built, basically they just bring up hoses and they fill up dig a hole out of the snow, put a tarp in there, then fill it up with water. And then people, typically are drinking and with costumes on, fly across that thing as best as possible. And I haven't seen very many sit skiers get across the pond before, which I'm pretty happy that I'm one of the few people who have achieved the getting completely across. And, it was nice because the transition from the water to the snow was almost flat. And a lot of times there's a big drop off where it almost goes straight in like this. And when you go in there, people dive bomb, they jump out of the water and then they sink basically. And I also think that a lot of people lean back too far. They think they're worried about that front nose catching and then, just face planting. So I feel like as soon as I got in there, I was actually leaning forward more than I think a lot of people have. But yeah, it worked out well. I don't know. I don't know also how to describe it. I just went as fast as I could and it worked out well.
And you skimmed along the pond and made it to the other side, which watching a lot of these, there are a lot of skiers who do it. and there's not a super high success rate.
Yeah.
A lot of people crash and swim.
I don't see very many people doing it. I did watch a guy do a double backflip somewhere into a pond skim and made it. That's impressive. I think next year I got to throw one of those in there, maybe. Just throw a single backflip into the pond skim.
So now, what did your wife think about you deciding you were going to do the pond skim, and then when you were successful?
My wife seems to keep increasing our life insurance over and over, everything that I do. So she's super supportive, and she's waiting for that payday, I think. But she likes what I'm doing. She knows what generally speaking, I don't really do anything that's too dangerous. I don't think it's all within my wheelhouse. I think actually doing downhills and super Gs are more dangerous than any of the steep stuff that I ski. Just because when I'm skiing most of the stuff that I'm doing it on specific days where the snow's, soft enough to catch me. If I started tomahawking and stuff like that, but she's very supportive of it. She likes it. We get to do a lot of cool things because of it. So, and she's happy that I'm actually out there doing, positive stuff. And she likes that I'm trying to promote, I would say independence and, for disabled people, and kind of, I definitely feel like I need to be doing cool stuff in a sit ski so that the people who do see me, if they ever do end up getting paralyzed, they know that there's a lot of really cool stuff that they can do, and kind of give them the same opportunity that I got from Dave Poole. Because like I said, I had a very short window where I thought my life was going to suck. I don't even know if I had it, because I knew someone in a wheelchair doing really cool stuff. So my wife likes that part of it. She probably doesn't like when I have to leave a lot, with racing and stuff very often, because I'm definitely, I come home, I explode the house, and then I leave to go to another race. So she's not super happy, but she did end up getting a quitter job, and now she runs the dog kennel, and we're working at the greenhouse. So I don't think she's too mad.
Is she a skier too?
She does ski. She's definitely like a blue square kind of skier. Both my kids ski. My son's getting really good finally, which is cool. So he's like skiing black diamonds and stuff. We all did. My wife, daughter, and son all did the black diamond for the first time at the bowl at Big Sky, which is super cool. And my son Luke is definitely, though, he can actually ski it well. My wife and my daughter they're good. They got down it, but they like the blue square groomers.
Sounds like a lot of fun. It's great that you guys are all getting a chance to enjoy it together. I think that's one of the cool things about skiing. What is next for you? How does this all work? Are you going to stay in racing through Torino? You just had another epic filming event that you did at Big Sky, another first descent. Are you picking out the first descents? Does racing kind of complement it? Does it fit in there? Then you get a little of the, bring the dogs in and doing some of the mentor stuff. I mean, you are, as you said, a busy guy.
Yeah. So racing, I mean, my goal was to get to the Paralympics, was my big goal. But my real goal with racing was to be able to get better and be able to compete with, Andrew Kirka is one of my big mentors in the racing community and just in general in sit skiing. And I can't touch that guy. He is significantly faster than me. And until I can touch him or be able to compete legitimately with him, I don't feel like I'm done by any means. I definitely want to go to Italy, the next games. I think that my life will always be kind of that show up and race kind of thing. I don't know if I'll ever be able to commit, an entire solid year of racing and training just because I have, kids, wife, businesses, and things like that. But as long as it's fun, I'm in. I'll continue doing it as long as I'm enjoying it. Once it becomes a burden or frustrating or, something not enjoyable, I'll probably end up going back to just free skiing. But I'll probably be doing 50-50, just skiing Big Sky with my friends and family, filming with the media teams there. Mountain Collective Path, I do some stuff with them as well. I think I want to learn how to do a backflip. I used to do backflips and rodeos on my snowboard and stuff, and I could do some pretty cool terrain park stuff. But I feel like the sit ski is a lot more of a risk for screwing up your shoulders and the rest of your body. So I think I'll probably end up going to Woodward and going into the foam pit and seeing how safe it feels. But I'll probably be doing both for quite a while, I think, until something becomes less fun than it is currently.
And is it an issue with regard to age at all? Because what, you're 38, 39 kind of thing?
39. Man, does that feel like 40? It does not feel like 39 at all. Yeah, my brain still thinks I'm 19. My body disagrees. My acid reflux and stomach disagrees. I would say as long as I'm healthy enough and I don't really foresee any major issues with, injuries, I think I might be done doing downhills. I feel like downhills are a little bit of an insane speed sport, and I feel like everyone that I go to, I feel like I see someone with a broken shoulder or just a concussion. So I don't know how much I'll be doing that stuff in the future, but I love slalom. I like GS a lot lately, but I think the age. I don't think age really applies that much in the sit skiing community. I feel like we don't have as many. Our field is much smaller, so I think I'm able to be in the top 10 possibly at the games next in Italy for that stuff. I don't know if I'm catching Jeroen Kampscher or Jesper Peterson and stuff. Those 20-year-old kids that have been skiing for 18 years. I don't think my 43-year-old self will be able to catch those guys, but who knows? Maybe some light bulb will turn on, and I feel like that's the big thing with me. Once the light bulb comes on, it's on there. It's like riding a bike for me. If I, and I feel like this year was a lot of light bulbs came on. The race courses have definitely been, are cool to actually get used to getting close to gates and learning how to do the, learning how to pressure a turn when you think, like, not going directly at gates, not going directly at, like looking at the line that actually isn't visible, but you have to know where to turn, like making 80% of your turns above the gate and trying to cut up underneath them. When you're brand new and you're just a free skier, you definitely are, you're definitely going more direct at gates than you should be, and it's hard to understand line choice. So it is, I really like the learning, the line choice in ski racing. So
it's a puzzle that you have to solve, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm excited because I feel like this year, at least with GS racing, I feel like my line choice is getting better. And now I just have to get used to, pressuring the ski and knowing that when I pressure it hard enough, where it'll actually take me. And I've had a few light bulbs this year that have gone off that is making GS skiing a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, it's a matter of bringing the technical side of what you can do, because obviously you're a great skier, but to take the technical side of what you do and be able to put that turn in the proper place. So matching your technique with your tactics and making it all work and building throughout, which is really intriguing. And it sounds like it's intriguing. I mean, it sounds like you've got the intriguing, I'm scared kind of running some of these first descent things, but then it sounds like there's something in it for you on the racing side, whether that's were you always a competitive guy?
I feel like I am competitive, and that is actually one of my biggest things that frustrate me with ski racing is I don't feel like ski racing is competitive at all. I don't, in the aspect that when you go on a start gate, I have no idea how fast the guy went before me or after me, and if they hit a hole somewhere. So I have it's a hard balance between, pushing the limits, being on the edge of control, and also surviving to get through a race course. Where, we went to Adaptive Spirit this year together, and those, double GS courses, when there's two, like the NASCAR courses,
yes,
I love those. They're so much fun, because when I see someone pass me, my brain like loses it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself to try to beat this person. And I had a really fun race with Kirka, and I was within a gate of him at the bottom, and I talked a lot of crap on the top of the hill, and so I knew he was skiing harder than he at least I know he wasn't giving it to me, and I like that stuff. I feel like I ski much better or faster when I feel the urge to go like that someone's beating me. Where my racing career, I feel like I've always gotten to the bottom of hills, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have gone faster, or cut some gates closer and things like that. And So I do struggle with the competitive side of it, even though I am competitive. That racing definitely, like we need to start doing like bank slalom, snowboarding style stuff with sit skis, or like the mono wax and things like that. I feel like those are all more naturally my style than the wait in the line, go down the race course, and then look at a clock to see how good you did. I want to know if I want to, if I went past the line before the other people did, I know I won.
Which is interesting, because that's one of the issues with ski racing, is that you sort of get that clock in your head, right? Where you think, okay, I'm not going fast enough here. I've got to pick it up. I've got to do whatever. But you don't have the feedback of somebody directly next to you that you see either they're ahead of you or they're not ahead of you. It's kind of like you've had enough experience that you know when you're going fast, when you're not going fast, when you need to take a little bit of risk, when you don't need to take a risk. And I'd imagine in a lot of ways, that's a product of not having a ton of experience for you, that you're building that right now to going, okay, now that was a good turn. That was a good section. That was a good line. And then you start building the understanding, and then you can bring the stuff that you do naturally to the sport. It's going to be really fun to watch you guys race in Cortina, because it's such a spectacular area, but it's also, it's got a lot of variety, particularly up top. You've got a bunch of knolls. Actually, most of the way down, you've got a bunch of knolls and changes of terrain and stuff where you've got to figure out where the course is. So that's going to be fun. Can we change it up just a little bit? We do this thing at the end where we do 5 questions in 5 minutes. So it's just quick questions. They're not exactly completely, they're not connected. They're not, not classified, thematically or anything. So, So here we go. Let's see what we have for you. We're looking at you in a greenhouse. This seems like it could be appropriate. Do you have a favorite flower or plant, and why?
Cilantro, mainly for pico de gallo. I will eat anything with cilantro, and I find it crazy that some people think it tastes like soap.
People do think it tastes like soap. That to me, I'm a huge cilantro fan as well. So it's great to hear that you're a cilantro fan, and because to me it's just such a fresh taste, which I love cilantro. So I'm in agreement with you on that one. How do you stay optimistic? You always seem like you're the smiling guy. If we see all your photos, you're the smiling guy. You seem like you're leading people along. How do you stay optimistic? Is it something that just happens?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been kind of a, shit or get off the pot kind of person. That's my grandma's saying. I don't necessarily see the point of being grumpy. I mean, I definitely look at things through a jaded lens, I think, but I think I am.
What does that mean? What's the jaded lens?
I like knowing what I don't like about people or things, just so I'm prepared for it. And then once I know that, I can look past everything else, and I don't have any problems once I know. I don't like being surprised by people's issues, and I look for them early on, and once I know them, I don't have to worry about. I don't know how to describe it. I don't feel like I'm always the most optimistic person with social interaction stuff, but I am always looking to have fun. I am always looking to, find a new thing that keeps me entertained. And I really do like bringing people out and doing stuff. And actually, I heard when I first got paralyzed, I credit a lot of my stuff as just my natural. They said whenever you get paralyzed, whoever you were before gets amplified. Where if you were a Debbie Downer or a grumpy person before, the glass was half empty, you just become way worse in that matter. Where I was always a glass half full, where even if something went bad, I was able to look at it through a better lens of like, well, okay, well, it sucks that I got paralyzed, but at least I got, my kids never get an excuse why they don't want to do something or why they hurt. I'm like, oh, do you think your dad likes being in a wheelchair? They don't get any excuses, and it's great for parenting my kids. I think the I think having that positive outlook is important, and I'm glad that I was that before. And I think I've gone that route, I guess.
You do a lot of things. I mean, I'd imagine there's a lot of work, like physical labor kind of work. I've seen your Instagram where you're on the floor, putting the flooring in your kitchen. You seem to do a lot of work that way. Skiing, it helps if you're fit. Doing some of these first descents, you have to get there, and obviously there's been some support to help you get to some of these peaks, but you have to get there too. What do you do to maintain fitness?
The U.S. team is not going to like this answer. So I don't do anything. I don't. So I've always been one of those people that work out with the activities that I do. Like I used to rock climb. I trad climbed the Devil's Tower before I got paralyzed. I snowboarded. I did a lot of mountaineering and hiking and stuff. And I've never really gone to the gym. Honestly, when I go to the gym, I don't know what the machines are. I don't know what to do with them. I make jokes half the time and then I leave. So most of my workout stuff is kind of in the activities that I'm doing. But with we did the new A to Z Chute thing video this year. And that was in between buying this current property, trying to rebuild my transit van, moving all our stuff to the greenhouse. And then it was a random call that basically the guys from Big Sky's media team said, hey, the conditions are good. And then we kind of just went up there. And honestly, I do credit a lot of that success on that one to the guys who got me up that first steep pitch, because I feel like I think we crawled like 500 yards on that ridge line. It's like 5 football field length on a ridge line, and just basically butt scooting backwards with an outrigger underneath my butt, trying not to tip over and fall off a cliff. But by the time I got to the bottom of parachute,
that's where your help was.
Yeah,
that's where your help was.
Yeah, I was a little worried because it's funny because like I feel like when you talk, when you have media team people or the ski bros, they are all super supportive of you. And one of the media guys there was like, Rob, I think you're underestimating how long this is going to take. I'm like, I'm thinking you're underestimating the ability for a paralyzed guy to hike. So I think. And then by the time I got done with the ski run, on the way back down to the base camp, my arms were cramping up. I think if I would have went even 100 feet more, I think it would have been pretty rough going down that. I am trying to get back into working out at the gym and stuff, which is nice. We've been doing the U.S. team, so I'm on the development team for the U.S. this past season, and they've definitely given me some help with workout stuff. Lori Stevens helped me out while we were in Aspen with some basic workout stuff. So I'm starting to get better at it, but I am definitely not the best person when it comes to following the rules, I guess, for working out. But it's still working. I don't know if it's going to still work in a couple of years with getting older and older.
You might just have more of a Rocky kind of workout. You're on the farm, right? You can chase chickens around and carry logs and do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, I think it's right.
That seems to lead into this next question. What is your go-to superfood and junk food?
Oh, God. So I have acid reflux, and I went to the doctor, and they gave me a list of everything I shouldn't eat. And then we showed it to my mom, and she said that is his whole diet. So acidic food, like I love chips and salsa. I love ceviche. I love anything that's not really spicy, but like acidic. I love, shrimp with lime on it and stuff like that. I snack eat all the time. I do drink Mountain Dew as my junk food. That's bad. But honestly, I'm from the Kaukauna, Wisconsin, and if you look at any cheese, it's either from Tillamook or Kaukauna. And I eat cheese. Any cheese I can find, I'll eat a ton of cheese. I think that would be my big bad one, is just endless cheese. Like when you go to the grocery store and you buy those little packages of sandwich cheese, I just eat that straight up out of the peels.
Well, I mean, it's part of your heritage though, right?
Yeah. I gotta, my grandfather's grandfather did it, so I gotta do it.
Are you a movie guy? Do you have a favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie. Donnie Darko. It's a great movie.
Really? I've not seen that.
Donnie
Tell me
Darko?
about it. What's that?
Donnie Darko is what is it? It's a weird movie. It's Jake Gyllenhaal's one of his first movies, and it's about time travel. Any movie that's like space travel, like Interstellar, The Martian, with Matt Damon. But Donnie Darko, movies that make you can watch 3 or 4 times, like Interstellar is really good, where you can watch it 3 or 4 times and understand what they're talking about. So, but yeah, Donnie Darko would be my favorite one.
All right. And so are you saying you want to be a time traveler? Is that what I'm getting out of this? Or
No, one and done for me.
Get as much out of it while you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, Rob, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking us through your story. And yeah, good luck in your pursuit.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. As we always say, the greatest gift you can give us is to tell your friends. If you've enjoyed your time here, please tell your friends, tell them to tune in, tell them to like us, tell them to follow us. This will be a traditional podcast. Please subscribe to the Nametags Chat podcast, and we will continue to give you great content. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.